was either in German hospital or preparing to go to German hospital. And on the 25th, the first time she says, the first time that she knew that there were twins was when Dr. Taylor said, "Now let's get the other one." So Brother John was the first one, and Tom was the second one, and I had names picked out for them, but it was Edgar and Whiz.
Biggest one Edgar, littlest one Whiz.
That didn't happen, but anyhow, I thought this would be an appropriate time for them to come, and I suggested they talk about growing up in Villa Grove in the 40s and 50s and 60s. However, no telling what they may talk about. So.
I have a little poem to read first, and then may bring some memories for you. It says, boys growing up in the 50s. Warm beds within the walls made of knotty pine. Well, our walls weren't made of knotty pine, but
The heads were kind of naughty, according to my dad.
because there was no heat in our bedrooms. So, under dark covers with a flashlight that's mine, crystal radios. Now, did you have? We tried making one with the razor blades and stuff from the Boy Scout manual. Crystal radios, like small rocket ships are links to the world in a faraway star. Erector sets. I think Charles is one that had an erector set. Were the toys of our day. On a western flyer in the snow we would play. Hot chocolate to warm in a cold winter breeze. A milk box outside on a cold day would freeze. If you remember the milk bottles when they delivered them, and they would just rise up, push that little cardboard stopper right up sometimes. And Easter peeps colored like a rainbow that grows. A fish tank and a shipwreck with bubbles that flow, electric train tracks around the tree. I don't think we ever had ours around the tree. But Charles had the one that smoked.
In the basement, you just hope it didn't flood.
A powerful telescope, which we never had. Saturn's rings we could see. And off in the summer night we would go to sleep in the park. Oh, what fun we didn't know. In our sleeping bags watching the stars all night, with comic book collections and ghost stories of fright. To woods and a Tarzan swing we would ride, into blackberry briars making tunnels to hide. The memories, sounds, the sights, and the smells are recalled of my youth in the poems that I tell. So those I was thinking about in the 40s when we started, and the big things, of course, were the trains, and the steam trains, and went by our house. And they would just shake that little house, and and then we'd go down to the depot and just track after track, and they had a man there that would put the gate down and up, and the trains, the passenger trains it had, and then finally they ran the little doodle-bug by our house, and a friend of mine in Champaign, his dad was station agent in Allerton. And it got snowbound over there somewhere, and the high school boys came out and dug it out. And come to find out later, his wife was on that train. So I said, well, that was fate. He saved you. But the trains were a big thing. Going to church, down and walking. You walked everywhere. You walked to town, and then my cousin was over. We talked about Saturday nights here. All the businesses were open. And the streets, and you couldn't find a place to park, and walk down and see people. And there was a big truck that stopped at our house, and the guy had like chickens and pots and pans and other kinds of things to sell. And then we had the Jewel Tea truck that came around and would deliver things. Going to school was great. Walk down to the grade school. We didn't know it wasn't safe to walk, so we walked down there. And unfortunately, Brother Tom was ill during the first grade, but when he got well in the spring, he put on these new school shoes that I already worn them out. It was a little traumatic for him. But of course, the Pancake Festival, and that was big. I mean, that was really big. And I just checked up on it, and my brother graduated from high school in 1957, and what his class was responsible for a lot of things, but apparently they did something to the Pancake Festival, because that fall was the last Pancake Festival, 57. And so I don't know what they did that causes that, but that was a big, big deal as a kid growing up here. Of course, the water, you could smell the water from the water plant. We had the two bubbling fountains that bubbled all the time. Specifically, roller skates. How many of you had those clamp-on roller skates? You have to be careful, they come off, you fall. But the best sidewalk in town was in front of Mrs. Green's house. And so if someone came over, we'd all go over there and take turns on the skates. We didn't have ice skates, but we had some buddies that did, and we'd go down to the res and take turns ice skating on that. But my cousin asked, "Do you ever skate on the river?" I said, "Never." I never got on the river. That was against the rules for us to go to the river. The library upstairs by the post office now, that was a big deal. You'd go down
Miss
there.
Lillian Jones.
Yeah, we had a Miss Jones, and of course the summer band concerts were right there. That was a big deal. That was one of I was enthralled with the trombones, and Montel Thompson and Phil Bade, and I finally got to play the trombone in the summer
Came
band.
time for us to choose band instruments. My father said, "You boys can play any instrument you want as long as one of you plays the clarinet." We already had a clarinet. So I yielded, but we made him practice out in the coal house because he was pretty terrible when he started.
John, did you ever fall off the concrete stage down there and the brass sat in the back?
Nope.
Is your chair too close to the edge?
The other thing I thought about too was the dogs. The dogs could run loose. Then Charles's dog ruled our neighborhood.
I had a fond relationship with Duke. He kept me in 10-cent show tickets. For 10 cents, you know, Saturday afternoon, you'd go to the show for a double feature, one of which was bound to be a cowboy movie. And the paper boys would be afraid of Duke.